Imagine looking at a massive, glowing holographic map of the Earth, and suddenly, bright red warning lights start flashing across every single continent. Are we actually on the brink of World War III, or are we already fighting it in the shadows without even realizing it? Today, we are going to dive into the fiery history of global conflicts and decode the terrifying, high-tech reality of the year 2026. To understand the ticking clock of today, we have to rewind to the massive explosions of the 20th century. Picture a giant, fragile house of cards. In 1914, a single assassination knocked the bottom card out, and the entire global structure collapsed into World War I. Countries had built massive armies and tangled themselves in a sticky web of alliances. When one nation went to war, everyone was violently dragged into the muddy, gas-filled trenches. Over 19 million lives were tragically lost, but the peace treaty at the end didn't extinguish the fire, it just buried the smoldering coals. Exactly 20 years later, those coals erupted into the darkest storm humanity has ever seen, World War II. Fueled by severe economic desperation and toxic, aggressive empires, the globe was split into two colossal fighting forces. From the frozen, brutal ruins of Stalingrad to the massive naval clashes in the deep blue Pacific, the destruction was absolute. It ended with the terrifying, blinding flash of atomic weapons, leaving up to 85 million people dead. The world promised never again and built global safety nets to prevent such a catastrophe. But now, fast forward to our present reality in 2026. Look closely at that glowing world map. The warning lights aren't just blinking, they are locked in a steady, burning red. The nature of war has completely mutated. In Eastern Europe, the Russia and Ukraine conflict has devolved into a heavy, grinding war of attrition. Imagine a colossal, immovable tug of war, but instead of ropes, they are using screaming drone swarms and devastating long-range missiles. The trenches have returned, and by early 2026, over 1 million soldiers have fallen as nations switch entirely into massive war economies. Now, aggressively pan the camera over to the Middle East, where the map is practically engulfed in digital flames. For years, the United States, Israel, and Iran played a silent, invisible shadow game using spies and sneaky computer viruses. But that pressure cooker has violently blown its lid. In 2025 and early 2026, the world watched in shock as massive bunker buster bombs rained down on deep underground nuclear facilities. Retaliation was swift, filling the night sky with blazing, fiery streaks of ballistic missiles. The highly critical Strait of Hormuz, essentially the giant metallic valve that pumps energy to the entire planet, is now constantly threatened to be choked off. So, with all these massive dominoes wobbling, are we plunging into World War III? Modern defense analysts point to a terrifying concept called the three-body problem. Imagine a high-speed juggling act with three incredibly heavy bowling balls: the US, China, and Russia. All the old safety nets and communication lines have been shredded, increasing the risk of a fatal accident. But here's the fascinating twist. Intelligence models predict there is only a tiny 5% chance of a sudden, globe-spanning nuclear war. Why? Because of mutually assured destruction. If one person hits the big red button, the entire planet loses. Instead, experts say there is a massive 95% chance that we are already fighting a global hybrid war. It's a World War Lite, fought entirely in the shadows. We're talking about invisible cyber armies shutting down massive power grids, robotic submarines severing vital internet cables in the pitch-black ocean depths, and silent satellites disabling each other in the freezing, silent vacuum of space. The battlefields are no longer just muddy fields. They are our silicon chips, our global shipping lanes, and our digital networks. The world hasn't stopped fighting. It has simply evolved the absolute rules of the game. Stay curious, keep your eyes wide open, and always watch the map.